The BMW's shiny red bow glistened under the Christmas lights like it was mocking me. I stood behind the kitchen window, my heart aching, as I watched my son Ethan place the keys into Linda's hands, his smile stretching wider than I'd seen in years. "Merry Christmas, Mom Linda," he shouted proudly, calling her by that ridiculous nickname that cut through me like a knife. My daughter-in-law Chloe squealed, clapping her hands like she had just witnessed some miracle, as though buying a $60,000 luxury car for a woman who had been in our family for barely 8 months was something extraordinary. I pressed my hand against the cold glass, forcing a smile that no one could see. "If you're watching this, let me show you what my loving son gave his actual mother." I turned, picked up the little pink plastic piggy bank that sat on the counter, and shook it so the few crumpled dollar bills inside made a hollow sound. $3. That was my Christmas gift. 3 lonely bills after 35 years of raising Ethan, after every sacrifice I had made for him, after paying for his education, his wedding, even helping with the down payment on his house. If you're watching this, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. This story gets much more intense, and I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. "Mom, it's symbolic," Ethan had explained earlier, his voice carrying that patronizing tone he had mastered since marrying Chloe. "You're always saving money, so we thought this was perfect." Perfect. That was the word he had used, and perfect was exactly what I had called it back to him, smiling sweetly and thanking him like any mother was supposed to. Because that's what we do, isn't it? We smile, we pretend our hearts aren't breaking, and we accept scraps while our children call it love. I could see Chloe looping her arm through Linda's as they both admired the BMW's leather interior, laughing like schoolgirls sharing a secret. Linda had slipped into our family after my husband James passed away 2 years earlier, showing up at every gathering with her styled silver hair and expensive clothes, always managing to position herself at the center of everything. Somehow she had become Mom Linda, while I, the woman who gave birth to Ethan, had been pushed to the side and handed 3 crumpled dollars like that was all I was worth. The December wind rattled the kitchen window, the sound almost mocking me as I set the piggy bank on the counter beside the unopened Christmas cards I hadn't sent. Cards that cost more than the gift I received. The irony wasn't lost on me, but I doubted Ethan would notice it even if I spelled it out. I had spent the entire morning cooking Christmas dinner, slaving over a honey-glazed ham, kneading dough for homemade rolls, making green bean casserole from scratch, and preparing that ridiculous trifle Chloe insisted on even though no one but her actually touched it. My feet ached, my back screamed, and my hands were raw from scrubbing pans. But hey, I got $3 out of it. The front door creaked open, and Chloe's voice rang through the house. "We're heading out to show Mom Linda her new car around town." She didn't ask if I wanted to join, didn't even glance toward the kitchen. It was just an announcement, like I didn't matter. They were taking Linda on a grand victory lap while the woman who had just served them a feast stood alone, holding a child's toy piggy bank. Ethan's voice followed, casual, careless. "Thanks for dinner, Mom. We'll see you next week." Next week. My jaw clenched as I listened to the sound of car doors slamming, one after the other, followed by the purr of the expensive engine pulling away from my driveway. The house fell silent except for the hum of the dishwasher and the steady ticking of the grandfather clock James had loved. I looked around the empty kitchen, at the mountain of dirty dishes waiting for me, at the leftovers that would feed me alone for a week, because of course they wouldn't take any. That's when I noticed it. Linda's purse, sitting neatly on the counter beside my pitiful pink piggy bank. She had been so consumed by her shiny new toy that she had forgotten her expensive black leather handbag. I reached for it, the smooth material cold beneath my fingers. The purse felt heavy, weighted with things far more valuable than the $3 I'd been handed. I could see the edge of her wallet inside, bulging with credit cards and cash, a sparkling phone case peeking out, and even a prescription bottle. How careless of her. How very careless. I stood there for a moment, the contrast almost cruel. My $3 piggy bank sitting next to Linda's handbag that probably cost more than my entire month's groceries. Something inside me shifted. I carried her purse into my bedroom, the corners of my mouth tugging into the kind of smile I hadn't felt in years. After all, I told myself, I was only keeping it safe, making sure nothing was missing before returning it. That's what good mothers do, isn't it? But as I opened the purse and saw what was inside, I realized this wasn't just about keeping it safe. This was about finally seeing the truth of the woman who had replaced me. And the truth was going to change everything. I placed Linda's purse on my dresser, my fingers trembling slightly as if I had touched something forbidden. For a moment, I stood frozen, staring at the shiny black leather. It felt wrong to open it, like crossing a line, but at the same time, hadn't Linda already crossed every line with me? She had taken my place, stolen the love and respect I had spent a lifetime building. And now, her purse, forgotten in her excitement, sat like an invitation from the universe itself. I unzipped it slowly, the sound loud in the quiet of my bedroom. Her wallet was the first thing I pulled out, thick with cash and cards. I fanned the bills out, nearly $400 staring back at me, more than I sometimes had in my account at the end of the month. So much for being the helpless widow, I muttered, a bitterness rising in my chest. I flipped through the cards, bank after bank, Nordstrom, Saks, Tiffany. Linda wasn't just comfortable. She was swimming in money. But it was the folded papers behind her driver's license that made my stomach clench. Bank statements, 3 of them, printed only days ago. My eyes widened as I scanned the numbers. She wasn't just well off, she was wealthy. Her checking account had more zeros than I had seen since James's life insurance came through. I sat down hard on the edge of the bed, clutching the paper. I had believed Linda was just another lonely widow looking for companionship, a woman who showed up with her designer clothes because she wanted to feel needed. But this was something else. Her phone buzzed on the dresser, the rhinestone case lighting up the room. I jumped slightly, then leaned over to look. Message after message appeared on the screen. Deposit confirmed, $15,000 from Sunset Investments. Meeting Thursday. Bring the Williams file. Williams. My breath caught in my throat. That was us. My family. My house. My life. I sat in James's old recliner, the one Ethan had once tried to convince me to throw out because it didn't fit Chloe's decorating style. I had refused, and now, sinking into the familiar cushions, I felt closer to my late husband than I had in months. James, I whispered into the quiet room. What have they done? The prescription bottle rattled as I picked it up. Anxiety medication, filled just 2 months ago. Right around the time Linda had started inserting herself deeper into my affairs. Driving me to doctor appointments. Offering to review my insurance policies. Smiling sweetly as she asked about James's pension. Just making sure you're taken care of, darling, she would say, her voice like sugar. And I had believed her. God help me, I had believed her. The phone rang suddenly, jolting me. Not my cell, but the old house phone. I lifted it, my hand shaking. Mrs. Williams? A male voice asked, steady and professional. This is Officer Patterson with the state police. I'm calling about a missing person report. My throat went dry. A missing person? Yes, ma'am. A Linda Chen. Our records show she was last seen at your address earlier today. I forced my voice to stay calm, though my pulse hammered. I'm sorry, officer, I don't know anyone by that name. Are you sure? Her son reported her missing. Said she didn't come home and isn't answering her phone. Her son? I nearly dropped the receiver. Linda had never once mentioned having a child. She had woven story after story about being lonely, about having no family, about how grateful she was that Ethan and Chloe had welcomed her. And yet, here was a police officer telling me she had a son worried enough to file a missing person report. Well, I said carefully, we did have Christmas dinner together. But she left with my son and daughter-in-law. They were taking her for a drive in her new car. There was a pause on the other end. New car. A BMW, I answered, the words sour in my mouth. A Christmas gift from my son. The officer thanked me and promised to follow up. I hung up, staring at the silent phone. My gaze shifted to Linda's buzzing cell again. 23 missed calls, all from one name. Brian Chen. The text messages flashed with growing desperation. Mom. Please answer. Where are you? The police are looking for you. Please, call me back. Tears stung my eyes, not for Linda, but for the bitter irony of it all. She had a son who cared so deeply he had called the police within hours of her disappearance. And me? My son had just driven away in a $60,000 car with another woman, leaving me behind with $3 crumpled in a piggy bank. I opened her photo gallery, telling myself I was only being thorough, still protecting her things. At first, it was harmless enough. Photos from our family gatherings, Linda at Ethan and Chloe's anniversary, Linda at barbecues, Linda at birthday dinners. Always between them, always smiling like she belonged more than I ever did. But then as I scrolled back, my breath caught. The images shifted. Photos of documents, bank records, screenshots of statements, even pictures of my home, my bedroom, my office, my jewelry box. Things no guest should ever see. My hand shook violently as I found a photo of James's death certificate. Another of our marriage license. And then one that made me feel sick. A clear, close-up picture of my social security card. My chest tightened. This wasn't just a woman trying to fill a void in her life. This was surveillance. Careful, methodical, invasive surveillance. The grandfather clock chimed 7 times. They had been gone for over 2 hours. A tour of the neighborhood couldn't take that long. My son hadn't called, hadn't texted. My house felt colder than it had in years. I carefully repacked Linda's purse, every item back in place, but not before snapping pictures of the most damning documents with my own phone. My hands steadied as a strange calm washed over me. If Linda was playing a game, she had just taught me the rules. The purr of the BMW's engine returned to the driveway. Chloe's laughter floated in through the winter air like shards of glass cutting my ears. I positioned myself in the kitchen, purse in hand, wearing the mask of the polite, dutiful mother who had just happened to find what was left behind. But as I watched Linda step out of the car, her heels clicking against the pavement, I noticed something different. It was in her eyes, the calculating way she scanned my house, her gaze lingering too long on the windows, the roofline, the corners of the yard. This wasn't a careless woman who had forgotten her purse. No. This was a woman who had left it behind on purpose. "Oh my goodness, Clara, thank you for keeping my purse safe," Linda said the moment she stepped into the kitchen. She reached out with that practiced smile, the one that had fooled Ethan so easily. Her voice was honey-sweet, almost too perfect, and for a second I wondered if she had rehearsed it in the mirror. She laughed lightly, touching my arm as though we were old friends. "I must be losing my mind. I can't believe I forgot it." I handed the purse back, my own smile polite but tight. "It was right here on the counter. I thought you might need it." Her fingers moved quickly, checking each pocket, each card slot. I saw the momentary relief flash across her face when she confirmed everything was still inside. If I hadn't been watching closely, I would have missed it. But I had been watching, and I caught the way her shoulders loosened, the way her eyes darted back to me, making sure I hadn't peeked. "I hope you enjoyed your drive," I said, keeping my voice light, though my heart hammered. Linda gave a sparkling laugh. "Oh, it was wonderful. Marcus is such a thoughtful boy. You really did raise him well." The way she said boy, lingering on the word like he wasn't a 35-year-old man but still a child in her arms, made my stomach twist. Before I could answer, Chloe chimed in, her voice bright and giddy. We even stopped by Linda's house so she could show the car to her neighbors. They were so jealous. She giggled like a teenager, her arm linked through Linda's, as though I wasn't even in the room. Ethan appeared in the doorway, already slipping his coat on. "We should get going, Mom. Work tomorrow, early morning." I stared at him, my son, the boy I had raised with sleepless nights and endless prayers, dismissing me like I was an obligation. 3 hours earlier, he had been grinning ear to ear, giving Linda a BMW. And now, he couldn't wait to leave his own mother's house. "Actually," I said suddenly, my voice sugar-sweet but steady. "Before you go, Marcus, I got a call from the state police tonight. Something about Linda being reported missing." The color drained from Linda's face so quickly it was almost comical. She recovered fast, though, laughing nervously. "Missing? That's ridiculous. I'm obviously right here." "Yes," I said softly. "That's exactly what I told Officer Patterson. I explained you'd left with my son and daughter-in-law, driving around in your new BMW. But apparently your son, what was his name again? Brian? Was worried enough to call the police." Silence filled the kitchen. Chloe's eyebrows shot up. "Linda, you have a son? You never told us that." Linda froze. Her smile faltered, her eyes shifting between all of us like she was calculating the next move in a game of chess. "Oh, well, yes," she said finally, her voice too high-pitched. "But we're not very close. He lives far away, in Seattle. Different lives, you know how it is." She waved her hand as though brushing away something unimportant. But I knew better. I had read the texts, seen the frantic messages. This wasn't the voice of a son who was distant or estranged. This was the voice of a child who loved his mother enough to panic when she didn't answer. "How wonderful that you have family who cares so much," I said, keeping my smile plastered on. "It's precious, really." Marcus shifted uncomfortably, clearing his throat. "Mom, we really need to get going. We'll see you next week." "Of course, sweetheart," I said sweetly, the word bitter on my tongue. "Drive safe. And Linda, I do hope you call your son back soon. He must be worried sick." I watched them leave through the window. Linda walked quickly toward the car, already pulling out her phone, her face tight with something she didn't want the others to see. Marcus and Chloe followed slowly, whispering to each other, clearly unsettled by Linda's sudden revelation. As soon as the taillights disappeared down the street, I went straight to my computer. My hands shook as I typed, but determination steadied me. It didn't take long, 15 minutes maybe, to find him. Brian Chen, Seattle. His profile came up easily, a successful attorney specializing in elder law and estate planning. Photo after photo filled the screen. Brian with his mother at family dinners, at birthdays, at holidays. He looked happy, proud, devoted. He wasn't estranged. He wasn't distant. He was close, painfully close. His captions spoke of admiration. "Dinner with Mom. Family time. Mom's advice saved the day." And then I saw something that made my blood run cold. One post from just a few months ago. "Mom helped me with the Peterson case. Her insight was invaluable." I clicked the link and read. The Peterson case was an elder fraud investigation. An elderly woman swindled by someone she trusted, someone who gained access to her finances through emotional manipulation. Brian had fought for her in court, exposing the fraud, saving what was left of her estate. My hands went cold. Linda's son had built his career fighting elder fraud. And yet, here Linda was, weaving herself into my family, taking photos of my documents, forging stories, and positioning herself to take everything James and I had built. Coincidence? No. It was too perfect. Too careful. Too cruel. I leaned back in James's recliner, staring at the glowing screen. My chest tightened with both anger and fear. Linda wasn't a lonely widow. She wasn't a sweet woman trying to help. She was a predator. One who knew exactly what she was doing. And now I realized, my son had just bought her a $60,000 car with money he didn't even have. I pressed my hands together, whispering into the quiet house. "James, if you were here, you'd tell me not to cry. You'd tell me to fight." I wiped my tears and stared at the computer screen again. My hands steadied as a new thought took hold. If Linda wanted to play games, then fine. But this time, she wasn't the only one who knew the rules. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Linda's face, that perfect smile hiding something sharp underneath. I kept hearing Ethan's voice in my head, "Merry Christmas, Mom Linda," and every time, it was like someone twisting a knife deeper into my chest. I sat at the kitchen table with a pot of coffee, staring at the pile of papers and photos I had copied from her purse. My hands were cold even though the heater hummed. By sunrise, I felt like a different woman. I wasn't just Ethan's mother anymore. I was a soldier preparing for battle. The first call I made was to Brian Chen's law office in Seattle. My voice softened as I spoke, putting on the sweetest grandmother tone I could manage. "Hello, dear. This is Clara from Virginia. I'm calling about Brian's mother, Linda." The secretary's voice brightened. "Oh, you must be the family friend she's been visiting. Mr. Chen was so worried yesterday when his mother didn't answer her phone. Is she all right?" Family friend. That was the lie Linda had spun for her own son. "She's fine now," I said carefully. "But tell me, how long has she been staying here in Virginia? Brian must miss her terribly." "Oh, several months now. Since September, I believe. He calls her every day. Such a devoted son. He was even planning to visit for Christmas, but Linda insisted she wanted to spend the holidays with her new friends." September. My heart skipped. She had been here for 4 months, sliding into my family's life, planting herself in my kitchen, asking questions about my pension, my insurance, my house. All while keeping her son away. I hung up the phone and stared out the frosty window. A devoted son, daily calls, steady love. Linda wasn't alone. She had deliberately chosen to play alone here, to wear the mask of a woman in need, to manipulate. And Ethan, my Ethan, had swallowed it whole. The phone rang again. This time, it was Ethan. His voice sounded tight, strained. "Mom, we need to talk. Chloe and I are coming over in an hour." It wasn't an invitation. It was an announcement. My chest tightened. I knew this wasn't going to be a kind visit. This was going to be an intervention, and Linda had already written the script for it. I spent that hour preparing. I cleaned the table, set out coffee mugs, even baked a batch of rolls from leftover dough. Not because I wanted to serve them, but because I wanted to remind myself who I was. A mother, a homemaker, a woman who had built this house brick by brick with James. This was my table, my home. If they wanted to sit across from me and treat me like the problem, then let them. When the doorbell rang, I took a deep breath and opened it. Ethan wore his best business suit, the one he saved for job interviews. Chloe had on her handling client's face, smiling but cold. They didn't come in like family. They came in like strangers. We sat across from each other at the kitchen table. I folded my hands in my lap and waited. "Mom," Ethan began, his voice too careful. "Linda is very upset. She feels like you violated her privacy yesterday." I raised an eyebrow. "By keeping her purse safe? I'm afraid I don't understand. She thinks you went through her things." I let out a soft laugh, though my chest burned. "Well, of course I did. What if she had medication in there? What if something had fallen out? I was being responsible." Chloe leaned forward, her voice calm but sharp. "Clara, Linda also feels uncomfortable about some of the questions you asked last night. About her son, her finances." I sipped my coffee slowly. I was making conversation. I thought it was wonderful that she has family who cares. Ethan's jaw tightened. "The thing is, Mom, Linda's been through a lot. Her relationship with her son is complicated. She doesn't like to talk about it." Complicated. I thought about the secretary's cheerful voice, about the daily phone calls, the devotion, the love. Complicated wasn't the word. Loved was. "I see," I said, tilting my head. "And the police call? Was that complicated too?" They exchanged quick glances, like children caught sneaking cookies. Chloe spoke carefully. Linda explained that her son has control issues. He gets anxious when she doesn't check in. That's why she needed to get away from Seattle. She needed freedom. I almost laughed at the audacity. They were rewriting the story right in front of me, turning a loving son into a controlling monster just to make Linda's lies fit. "How awful for her," I said sweetly, my sarcasm slipping through. "It must be so hard to have family who care too much." Ethan leaned forward, frustration in his eyes. "Exactly. That's why what you did was so hurtful. She trusted us, Mom. She trusted you. And then you started interrogating her." Interrogating? My voice hardened now. I asked where her son lived. "That's hardly an interrogation." "Mom, the point is, Linda is family now. She's been like a mother to us, especially after Dad died." The words landed like a blow to my chest. Like a mother. As if I hadn't been one all along. As if 35 years of raising him, of giving him every ounce of myself, could be replaced in less than a year. I leaned back, staring at him. "So she deserves a $60,000 BMW. And I deserve $3 crumpled in a piggy bank." The silence that followed was sharp enough to cut glass. Ethan's face flushed. "That gift was symbolic, Mom. You know that." "Yes," I said bitterly. "You've explained the symbolism. I'm a penny-pinching old woman who should be grateful for scraps." I stood, moving to the window, my back to them. "Tell me something, Ethan. How exactly did you afford Linda's car?" "What do you mean?" His voice wavered. "I mean," I turned, my eyes locking on his, "a $60,000 BMW isn't pocket change. Not for you. Not for Chloe. So tell me, how did you afford it?" Another glance passed between them. Chloe's hand moved nervously to her wedding ring, twisting it. "A tell. She always did that when she lied." Ethan cleared his throat. "We saved up. For how long?" I asked softly. He looked down at the table. "Mom, our finances are none of your business." "You're right. I said calmly. Your finances are none of my business. Just like Linda's purse should have been none of mine. I let the words hang in the air, watching as their faces tightened, their composure slipping. And in that moment I knew. Linda wasn't just targeting me. She had them wrapped up in her game too. The only question was whether they were victims like me, or if they had become her willing partners. Either way, I wasn't going to sit quietly anymore. After they left, the house felt too quiet. I sat down in James's chair, staring at the little pink piggy bank on the counter. $3. That was what my worth had been reduced to. And out there in Linda's driveway sat a BMW worth $60,000, shining like a crown on her head. I couldn't let it go. My hands itched for answers. I pulled my laptop closer, searching public records with the determination of someone who had nothing left to lose. Within minutes, I found Ethan's company file. My heart sank. There was no promotion. In fact, the reports showed he had been written up twice in the last 6 months. Poor performance. Missed targets. Struggles. So where had the money for the BMW come from? A few more searches gave me the answer. Ethan and Chloe had taken out a second mortgage on their house. $70,000. Approved 3 months ago. My stomach twisted. October. Right around the same time Linda had been digging through my personal documents, photographing my life like it was her property. I leaned back, my heart pounding. She knew. She had known exactly what my house was worth, what James's pension looked like, what I had tucked away in savings. She had been circling us like a hawk, and Ethan, my son, had flown right into her talons. I dialed the appraisal company, my voice sweet and shaky, like an old lady who'd misplaced her paperwork. Hello, this is Clara Williams from Elm Street. I think there was an appraisal done on my property in October, but I can't seem to find the papers. Could you check your records? The woman on the other end typed for a moment. Yes, Mrs. Williams. October 15th. The appraisal was ordered by Marcus Williams, for estate planning purposes. My grip tightened on the phone. Estate planning? And he was authorized to do that. Yes, ma'am. He's listed as your power of attorney on the request form. Everything seemed to be in order. Power of attorney. My vision blurred with rage. I had never given my son legal authority over anything, let alone my home. Someone had forged it. Someone had signed my life away. I hung up and drove straight to my lawyer's office. Margaret Patterson had handled James's will, and I trusted her more than anyone. She looked surprised when I walked in, my face pale and hard. Clara, she said gently. I wasn't expecting you today. Are you all right? I need to see my files, Margaret, I said, my voice trembling but firm. All of them. Especially anything about power of attorney. She frowned, pulling up the records on her computer. Her face changed quickly, her eyes widening. Clara. Something was filed 3 weeks ago. A notarized power of attorney giving Ethan full authority over your finances and property. She turned the screen toward me. My name. My signature. The notary's seal. Witnesses. All there. And none of it mine. I leaned closer, my eyes narrowing. That's not my handwriting. Look at the Y in Clara. I loop it twice. This one has 1 loop. And I never put circles over my eyes. This is a forgery. A good one, but still a forgery. Margaret's face went pale. Clara, this is fraud. Serious fraud. Whoever did this has the power to sell your house, empty your accounts, take everything. We need to call the police immediately. Not yet, I said quickly, my hands gripping the edge of her desk. If we call them now, they'll claim it was all a mistake. They'll destroy evidence. I need to see the full picture before I move. I need to know exactly how deep this goes. Margaret shook her head. This is dangerous. You're risking everything. I thought about Linda's purse. The photos of my social security card. The BMW shining in my driveway. Ethan's face when he defended her. And suddenly, the fear hardened into steel inside me. I'm done being their victim, I said firmly. I want you to do something for me, Margaret. I want to change my will. Her eyebrows shot up. Change it how? I want to leave everything to charity, I said. Every penny. No loopholes. No contests. I don't want Ethan or anyone else inheriting a dime. She stared at me, shocked. Clara, are you sure? You're angry right now. Decisions made in anger. I'm not angry, I interrupted, my voice steadier than it had been in months. I'm clear. I finally see them for who they are. Ethan, Chloe, Linda, they see me as a bank account, a house to strip, a life to carve up. I'm not their family anymore. I'm just their opportunity. And I won't let them take one more thing. I signed the paperwork with a steady hand, my chest lighter than it had felt in years. As I drove home, the winter air bit at my cheeks, but I rolled the window down anyway. For the first time since James died, I felt strong. I felt awake. Linda thought she was playing chess with a helpless old woman. But she was about to learn that this old woman knew the rules, and was ready to flip the board. The house felt colder that evening, though the heater was running. I sat in the living room with a blanket draped over my shoulders, staring at the flickering shadows from the fireplace. The papers Margaret had given me lay spread out across the coffee table like pieces of a puzzle I didn't want to solve. Power of attorney. Forged signature. My son's name tied to it all. I thought about Ethan as a little boy, the way he used to run down the hallway in his pajamas, dragging his stuffed bear behind him. I thought about the nights I stayed awake rocking him to sleep while James worked late. I thought about the day he left for college, how I stood in the driveway waving until his car disappeared down the road, my chest bursting with pride and sadness. And now here I was, staring at a piece of paper that said he had the right to take everything from me. The sound of my phone buzzing on the counter snapped me back. Chloe's name lit up the screen. I hesitated, then answered. Clara, she said, her voice too sweet, too rehearsed. Ethan and I wanted to check on you. We hope you're not still upset about yesterday. I swallowed hard. Upset? Why would I be upset, Chloe? My son gave another woman a luxury car while handing me $3. And apparently, I've signed away my life without even holding a pen. There was a pause. Her voice faltered. Clara, what do you mean? Don't play games with me, I snapped, the anger bubbling up. You know exactly what I mean. I saw the documents. Power of attorney, notarized, signed with a name that looks like mine but isn't. You and Ethan have been planning this with Linda. Chloe inhaled sharply. That's not true. You're imagining things. Linda was only trying to help you. She thought she could replace me. I cut her off. And she almost did. But let me tell you something, Chloe. I'm not blind anymore. I see exactly what's going on. And I promise you, I won't be your victim. Her voice hardened, the sweetness gone. Clara, you need to calm down. You're confused. Maybe you should talk to someone. I laughed bitterly. Don't you dare. Don't you dare try to make me sound crazy. That trick might work on Ethan, but it won't work on me. I hung up before she could reply, slamming the phone down on the counter. My hands shook, but it wasn't fear this time. It was adrenaline. A knock on the door jolted me. My heart pounded as I peeked through the window. Linda. Standing there in her expensive coat, holding a tin of cookies, smiling like a perfect neighbor dropping by for a holiday visit. I opened the door slowly, keeping the chain latch on. What do you want? She tilted her head, her smile never faltering. I thought I'd bring you some Christmas treats. You seemed a little out of sorts yesterday. I don't want your cookies, I said flatly. Her eyes flicked past me, scanning the living room like she was cataloging every detail. Clara, I think you're misunderstanding things. Marcus loves you very much. He just doesn't always know how to show it. That's where I come in. I can help guide him. I can help guide you too. I narrowed my eyes. Guide me into what? Signing away my house? Handing over my savings? Letting you crawl into my life until there's nothing left of me? Her smile faltered for the briefest second, then returned. You're tired. Losing James was hard on you. I know how grief works. It makes us paranoid. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. I went through your purse, Linda. I saw the photos. My social security card. James's death certificate. My bank statements. You've been planning this from the start. For the first time, her mask cracked. The color drained from her cheeks, and her lips tightened. You shouldn't have done that, she whispered. Why not? I shot back. Afraid the truth might come out? She leaned closer, her voice sharp and cold now. Listen to me, Clara. You're old. You're alone. You think anyone will believe you over me? Over your own son? Marcus trusts me. Chloe trusts me. You're just making yourself look unstable. I stared at her, my hands gripping the doorframe. Get off my porch, Linda. And don't come back. Her eyes narrowed. You'll regret this. I slammed the door in her face, my chest heaving. Through the window, I watched her walk back to the shiny BMW, her heels clicking on the pavement. She didn't look flustered. She didn't look scared. She looked victorious, like she had already won. I sank into James's chair again, tears spilling down my cheeks. For the first time, I felt truly cornered. She was right about one thing. Ethan didn't believe me. Chloe didn't either. And if I went to the police now, with her perfect smile and her forged documents, they might not believe me either. But then I remembered something. The photos. The ones I had taken with my phone before returning her purse. They were still there, safe in my gallery. Proof. Maybe not enough yet, but a start. I wiped my tears and whispered into the empty room. James, I know you tell me to fight. So that's what I'm going to do. The fire cracked softly, filling the silence. My hands steadied as I began to plan. Linda thought she was the queen on the chessboard. Ethan thought he was the knight protecting her. But they had forgotten one thing. The queen is powerful, yes. But the pawn can cross the board and change the game entirely. And I was done playing the part they wrote for me. The next morning, I woke up with a pit in my stomach. My phone buzzed non-stop with messages from Ethan. I didn't answer a single one. I knew what they'd say, lectures about Linda, guilt trips about family, maybe even demands that I apologize. But I wasn't going to play that role anymore. Instead, I made myself a strong cup of coffee and pulled out the old photo albums James and I had kept on the top shelf of the closet. Pictures of Ethan's childhood filled the pages. His first bike, his messy birthday cakes, his graduation cap tilted sideways. Every photo screamed of the love I had poured into raising him. And now, those same hands that once held my face and called me the best mom in the world, had signed papers to take my home away. I pressed my hand to the page, whispering, "You're still in there, Ethan. You have to be." But another voice whispered louder in my mind. Or maybe he isn't. Maybe he's gone, and Linda took him from you. By noon, a knock echoed at the door. Not the polite kind. This one was firm, steady, impatient. I opened it to find Ethan standing there alone, his jaw tight, his eyes restless. "Mom, we need to talk," he said, pushing past me without waiting for an invitation. I closed the door slowly, watching him pace the living room. "Go ahead, Ethan. I'm listening." He stopped and looked at me, his voice sharp. "Linda told me everything. She said you went through her purse, stole her private papers, and then accused her of things that aren't true. She's hurt, Mom. She doesn't deserve this." "Doesn't deserve this?" My laugh came out bitter. "She's been plotting against me from the start, Ethan. She forged documents. She has photos of my private information. She—" "Stop," he snapped, his face red. "Why are you doing this? Why are you trying to ruin the only person who's been there for me since Dad died?" The words landed heavy. "The only person?" I whispered. "Ethan, I raised you. I buried your father while you stood beside me. And now you're saying she's the only one who's been there for you." He looked away, shame flickering for just a second. "It's not like that. You've been distant since Dad passed." Linda stepped in. She made me feel like I wasn't alone. Tears stung my eyes, but I forced myself to stand tall. "She didn't step in to help you, Ethan. She stepped in to control you. To control me. Look at the BMW you gave her. Look at the second mortgage. Look at the power of attorney papers." His head snapped up. "What papers?" I froze. For a moment, I thought maybe he was lying, but the confusion in his eyes seemed real. "The forged papers," I said carefully. "The ones giving you authority over my finances. Don't tell me you didn't know." He shook his head quickly. "Mom, I didn't sign anything like that. I swear. I don't even know what you're talking about." I studied his face, searching for a crack, a tell. But the boy I raised was still in there, somewhere behind the anger and the manipulation. For the first time in months, I felt a flicker of hope. "You didn't," I whispered. "Then who did?" His silence was answer enough. We both knew. "Linda." He sank onto the couch, running his hands over his face. "Mom, I don't understand. Why would she do that? She's been nothing but kind to us." She's been using you," I cut him off gently. "She's been using both of us. Don't you see? She's already stolen from other families. She's practiced. This is what she does." He looked up at me, his eyes searching mine. "And you have proof?" I pulled out my phone and showed him the photos I had taken from her purse, the death certificate, the social security card, the bank statements. His face paled as he scrolled through them, his hands trembling. This can't be real," he whispered. "It is," I said softly. "And Ethan, you've been helping her without even realizing it. That car you bought her? That money you borrowed? She wanted you tied down. She wanted you desperate. That way she could pull the strings." He sat there in silence, the weight of it all sinking in. Finally he looked at me, his voice small. "What do we do?" For the first time in months, I felt the distance between us shrink. My son wasn't gone. He was still here, lost but not beyond saving. "We fight back," I said firmly. "But we do it smart. She's careful. Ethan. Too careful. If we make one wrong move, she'll twist it and make us look like fools. We need to catch her in the act." He nodded slowly, determination creeping into his eyes. "Okay. Tell me what to do." I reached across the table and took his hand. For the first time since James died, I felt strength in that touch. Not the strength of a boy leaning on his mother, but the strength of a man ready to stand with her. But deep inside, I knew this wasn't over. Linda was clever. Linda was dangerous. And she wasn't going to let go without a fight. The days that followed felt heavier, like the walls of the house carried secrets too big to hold. Ethan started calling me every night, something he hadn't done since he moved out. His voice was quieter now, stripped of arrogance, almost like the boy I used to know. Still, I could hear the shame buried under every word. "Mom, I can't believe I let this happen," he said one evening, his voice breaking. "I feel like I failed you. I feel like I failed Dad." I held the phone tightly, closing my eyes. "You didn't fail me, Ethan. You were blinded, that's all. She knew exactly what strings to pull. Don't you dare blame yourself for her manipulation." But deep inside, I couldn't shake the image of him handing Linda those car keys, smiling like she was his whole world. Forgiveness was not going to come easy. We agreed not to confront her right away. We needed more. Proof. Evidence she couldn't twist. So I did something I never thought I would do. I became the kind of woman who watched her own family like a stranger. I started with the small things. Linda had a routine. Morning walks, afternoons at Ethan's office, evenings spent hovering in my kitchen with a fake smile plastered on her face. While she laughed and told stories, I noticed the way her eyes scanned my shelves, my drawers, even my mail. She wasn't visiting. She was casing my life like a thief waiting for the right moment. One afternoon, while Ethan and Chloe were out, she dropped by unannounced. "Just thought I'd check in on you, Clara," she said, carrying a store-bought pie like it made her generous. I forced a smile and let her in, but I kept my phone recording in my apron pocket. As we sat with coffee, I casually asked, "So, Linda, have you heard from your son Brian lately?" Her smile stiffened. "Oh, you know how it is. He's busy. We don't really talk much." I leaned forward. "Funny. His office says he calls you every day." Her eyes flickered, just for a second, but she recovered quickly. "Offices exaggerate. He worries too much, that's all. I told him to give me space, but he doesn't listen." Her tone was smooth, but her hand tightened on the coffee cup, knuckles white. I made sure my phone caught every word. That night, Ethan came over after Chloe went to bed. I showed him the recording, the contradiction clear as day. He rubbed his forehead, shaking his head. "She's been lying to me for months." "God, Mom. How could I be so blind?" I touched his arm. "Because you wanted to believe in her. You wanted someone to fill the hole your father left. She used that against you." We sat in silence for a while, the only sound the old clock ticking in the corner. Then Ethan whispered. So what's the plan? I told him we needed to push her. Make her slip. If she's as careful as I think she is, she won't admit anything unless she feels safe. We have to make her think she's already won. Ethan looked at me, worry etched into his face. That sounds dangerous. I smiled faintly, though my heart pounded. It is. But Linda underestimates me. She thinks I'm just an old woman too weak to fight back. That's her mistake. The next day, I invited Linda for dinner. She arrived glowing, wearing a new silk scarf and expensive earrings that Ethan definitely hadn't bought. She kissed my cheek like we were best friends, but her eyes scanned the house again, as if counting what she could take. Over roasted chicken and potatoes, I played my part. I pretended to be tired, frail, even confused. I dropped little hints about my will, about how Ethan will take care of things when I'm gone. Her smile grew wider with each word, like a cat circling its prey. Of course, dear, she said sweetly. It's such a blessing to have children you can trust. My stomach churned, but I forced a weak smile. Yes. I just hope Ethan makes the right decisions. Sometimes I think I should put everything in writing, make sure it's secure. Her eyes lit up, and I knew I had her. Oh, that's very wise, she said quickly. In fact, I know some people who could help. Estate planners, very discreet. Maybe I could set up a meeting for you. I nodded, pretending to think about it. That would be wonderful, Linda. Thank you. Her shoulders relaxed, her guard dropping for the first time. She thought I was ready to hand her the keys to my life. And that was exactly what I needed her to believe. After she left, Ethan called. How did it go? He asked anxiously. I smiled into the phone, my voice steady. She's walking right into it. She thinks I'm hers already. But when the trap closes, she won't see it coming. For the first time in weeks, I slept soundly. Because now, it wasn't just me fighting. It was me and my son together. And Linda had no idea her perfect little game was about to collapse. The following week, Linda showed up at my door with a folder tucked neatly under her arm. She didn't bother with small talk this time. No cookies, no pies, no fake warmth. Her smile was there, yes, but it was thinner now, sharper, like she knew the game was nearing its end. Clara, dear, she said smoothly, settling herself at the kitchen table as though it already belonged to her. I've brought some paperwork that might ease your worries. Simple estate planning. Nothing too complicated. Just signatures, really. My chest tightened, but I forced my face into a mask of gratitude. Oh, Linda, you're such a blessing. I don't know what I'd do without you. She beamed, sliding the folder toward me. The pages inside looked official, even impressive, but my eyes went straight to the words I'd been expecting. Transfer of property, durable power of attorney, beneficiary assignments. All dressed up in legal language that screamed one thing. Once I signed, my life would no longer be mine. I picked up a pen, twirling it in my hand, pretending to hesitate like a confused old woman. These are so many big words. I hope I don't sign away something important. Linda chuckled, her voice soft but dripping with confidence. Oh, don't be silly. Ethan will take care of you. And I'll help him, of course. We're family now. Family. The word burned my ears. I looked at her carefully, her painted nails tapping the table, her eyes gleaming as if she already owned me. Just then, Ethan walked in. He had agreed to come late, to make it look like this was all my idea. His face was calm, but I could see the storm brewing beneath his skin. Hey, Mom, he said casually, kissing my cheek. His eyes flicked to the papers, then to Linda. What's going on? Oh, Ethan, Linda purred. Your mother is finally making the responsible choice. We'll have everything in order. No confusion later. No messy details. Just peace of mind. Ethan sat across from her, folding his hands. And what happens to her house? To her savings? To everything she and Dad built? Linda smiled like a cat cornering a mouse. It all goes to you, of course. And with my guidance, you'll manage it wisely. My stomach twisted, but I kept my face blank. It sounds so simple, I said softly. But what about Brian? Won't he mind me making these decisions without him? The name hit her like a stone. For the first time, her smile faltered. Brian. Yes, I said sweetly. Your son. The one who calls every day. The one who filed a missing person report because you vanished without telling him. The one who seems to love you enough to worry. Her face hardened, the mask slipping. You've been spying. Ethan leaned forward, his voice sharp now. No, Linda. She's been protecting herself. And me. And Dad's memory. Do you think we're blind? Do you think we don't see what you've been doing? Her eyes dotted between us, and for the first time, I saw fear flicker in them. You don't have proof. I pulled out my phone, pressing play on the recording. Her voice filled the room, smooth, practiced lies about Brian, contradictions about their relationship, little slips she didn't think mattered. Ethan's face hardened as he listened. When it ended, the silence was thick. Ethan's jaw clenched, his hands tightening into fists. You lied to me, he said quietly. You lied about everything. Linda leaned back, her voice turning cold. You're a fool, Ethan. You think your mother is saving you, but she's dragging you down. Without me, you'll lose everything. Your house, your job, your future. He stood, his voice shaking with both anger and hurt. I'd rather lose everything than lose my soul to you. Her eyes narrowed at him, then at me. This isn't over, she hissed. You think you've trapped me, but I've played this game longer than you've been alive. I stood too, my body trembling but my voice steady. Maybe so. But you underestimated me, Linda. And that was your first mistake. She gathered her papers quickly, shoving them back into the folder. The sharp click of her heels echoed as she stormed out of the house, slamming the door behind her. Ethan sank into a chair, his head in his hands. Mom, what have I done? I let her in. I let her take over everything. I sat beside him, laying a hand on his shoulder. You were grieving. She saw that and used it. But now we fight back. Together. He lifted his head, his eyes red but burning with determination. Then let's finish this. And in that moment, I knew. The boy I raised was back. The son James and I had loved so fiercely was sitting beside me again. And we were ready to face whatever came next. The next few days moved like a storm. Ethan and I worked quietly but carefully, gathering every piece of evidence we had. The photos from Linda's purse, the forged power of attorney papers, the recordings of her contradictions, it was enough to build a case. Margaret, my lawyer, nearly fell out of her chair when she saw it all. This is airtight, she said firmly. She won't escape this one. I'll file immediately. But I wasn't satisfied with just filing paperwork. Linda had humiliated me, taken my son from me, treated me like I was nothing. I needed her to face the truth. Not just in court, but in front of Ethan, in front of everyone. So I called Brian. My voice trembled as I explained who I was, what I had found, what Linda had done. There was a long silence on the line, then a low voice answered, steady but heavy with pain. I knew she had problems, Brian said. But I never thought she'd go this far. Thank you, Mrs. Williams. I'll be there. The following Sunday, Ethan invited Linda for dinner, acting as though nothing had changed. She walked in glowing as always, dressed in pearls and silk, her smile wide. Well, she purred, aren't we one big happy family again? But the moment she sat down, the door opened. Brian walked in. The color drained from her face. Brian, she whispered. He looked at her with eyes that were both sad and furious. Mom, what did you do? Her voice faltered, her perfect mask crumbling in front of us all. It's not what you think. But Ethan slammed a folder down on the table. The photos, the forged documents, the recordings. It's exactly what we think. You tried to steal everything from my mother. You tried to turn me against her. You almost succeeded. Linda's hands trembled as she reached for Brian. Sweetheart, please. But Brian pulled back, his voice breaking. All my life I defended you. I told myself you were just lonely, just misunderstood. But this? You preyed on a grieving family. You used Dad's death, James's memory, Ethan's pain. And for what? Money. A house that isn't yours. She opened her mouth but no words came. For once, Linda had nothing left to say. The silence that followed was crushing. She gathered her things quickly, her eyes darting toward the door. But this time, no one stopped her. No one begged her to stay. When the door finally slammed shut behind her, I felt a weight lift from my chest that I hadn't realized I'd been carrying. I looked at Ethan, his eyes wet, his face full of regret. "Mom," he whispered, his voice breaking. "I'm so sorry. I let her come between us. I let her make me forget everything you've done for me." I cupped his face, my tears spilling freely now. "You came back, Ethan. That's all that matters. We can rebuild from here. Together." Brian stayed a while longer, apologizing again and again for his mother's actions. But I told him softly, "You're not responsible for her choices. You're proof that love and honesty can still come from broken roots. Hold on to that." In the weeks that followed, the legal process took its course. Linda's forgery was exposed, her schemes unraveling under the weight of evidence. She disappeared from our lives as quickly as she had invaded them. And for the first time in a long time, the house felt like home again. On a quiet evening, Ethan came over alone. We sat together in James's old recliner, sharing a cup of tea. He looked at the pink piggy bank still sitting on the counter and smiled sadly. $3, he said softly. "The biggest mistake I ever made." I reached over, squeezing his hand. "Not a mistake, Ethan. A lesson. Money comes and goes. Cars rust. Houses crumble. But family, the real kind, can't be bought. And once you forget that, you lose everything that truly matters." He nodded, tears slipping down his cheeks. "I'll never forget again, Mom. I promise." I leaned back, closing my eyes as the warmth of the tea seeped through me. James's voice seemed to whisper in my heart, telling me I had done well. That I had fought, not just for myself, but for the bond between mother and son. And I realized then that Linda hadn't won at all. She had tried to take everything, but in the end, she gave me back the one thing I thought I had lost forever. My son. Sparkle's moral lesson. Greed can disguise itself in smiles, but truth always tears the mask away. Money and gifts mean nothing compared to love, respect, and loyalty. A real family isn't built on wealth. It's built on trust.